Hey everybody, I pray this video finds you blessed. So this project I've had in my mind for a while and just never really had an idea of exactly how I wanted to accomplish it. So I waited for a little while and finally I was like, I got to get this done. And so it's a pretty cool project. It was a very lengthy project, so I apologize for it being almost 20 minutes long, but stick with me and I appreciate you for sticking with me. To see how this all ended up coming together. So right now I'm making the arc reactor clear round disc so I can attach my vinyl sticker that I cut out on my Cricut. Now if you don't have a Cricut, you can always purchase these stickers. I know some people sell them already cut out, and you can also purchase the SVG files for yourself if you do have a machine that you can cut these out. And I'll put links to those things in the description below, and all the other tools and stuff that I used in this project. So here I'm just flattening the face. I hot glued it to a waste block just so that way I can mark out exactly where the sticker is going to be. I made the resin piece larger than what I needed, so that way in case I had a mess up or whatever unforeseen issues could arise, I decided to make it bigger than what I needed so I can correct the errors if possible, better with more material than not enough. So I'm making a little groove in the resin so that way I can stick the vinyl on there. And I've learned that these vinyl stickers don't like rough surfaces, so it's best to get it as smooth as you can. I think I sanded up to 400 grit, and the vinyl sticker ended up sticking just fine to 400 grit. So I was very happy about that. Was worried that those little bits would just peel right off with the transfer tape, and it didn't. So thank goodness. I didn't get it exactly center. I should have measured it out before I stuck the sticker on there. Some of this parts of this project I was kind of in a hurry to get done because I was limited on time. So some things I shortcutted, but it all turned out. So now after putting the vinyl sticker on, I want to seal it again with another clear coat of resin over the top of it, so that way that will be the front of the lens or the front of the light. I went ahead and just used a heat gun to get all the bubbles out. I was going to put it in the pressure pot, but decided that it wasn't necessary because I wasn't having issues with bubbles. So here I just returned it to that waste block. Well, I left it on the waste block, I'm sorry, and I'm just cutting it out to the exact size that I need. Now I'm using painter's tape to cover the face of it so that way when I pour clear resin on the back side with a little bit of interference blue, because I wanted the light to be bluish as it shined through the arc reactor. That the tape on the front, just to keep any kind of run over from getting on the front side. It ended up running over on the front side anyway, but you'll see how I correct that later. A friend of mine, Henry, brought me some of this black walnut chunk just a few weekends ago. Thank you, Henry. And I decided, well, even though it wasn't completely dry, it was the only thing I had that was really big enough to do this project that I had. And it was in the colors that I really wanted to use. So I'll show you how I kind of helped get that to dry a little quicker. A lot of this project overlapped other things that I was doing for this project, so I just tried to put it in order of the pieces versus the actual order I had done it in. Because of my time and availability, the order in which you'll do this may be different than mine, and so just ignore that fact. I'm just trying to keep the footage together for each individual piece so you don't get confused on how this is all coming together and what pieces are for what. So I'm just roughing this out and trying to get an idea of how big I need the opening for the light, the lens, the arc reactor lens, and giving myself enough material so if I decide to change the shape, I'm not limited. I just didn't need that big, huge chunk on there, and so that's why I'm kind of kind of bringing it down. Plus I was going to use some of the same wood for the base for this light. I'm making my measurements a little on the large side because I know this piece isn't completely dry. I measured it and it was about 15% moisture, and that was from the outside. So I knew the inside had a lot more moisture, so I wanted to make it larger than my final piece so I could give it some drying time. There were already cracks developing in it as I was turning it, so I just kept dousing them down with thin CA glue, and it seemed to help. I had someone question if CA glue on wet wood seems to help with the cracks, and I think it does. Ever since I've had CA glue and it's been available to me, I have used it on wet, dry, and everything in between wood, and I feel that it does help keep the cracks from spreading, at least becoming worse. So there I had one that already had started pretty good. Hollowing out in green is kind of tricky. It helps if you use a pilot hole, and try not to use the whole wing of your gouge, just use the very tip of it, and watch. Don't open your gouge up all the way. Open means where your flute is completely straight up and down. Try to keep it more towards in between, I would say, the 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock at the very, very most when you're hollowing out. Just a few tips because I had learned the hard way. So this is what I'm using to dry the piece is crystal kitty litter I got at Walmart for $4.97. Now I'm turning it now after I had sat in the kitty litter for about two days. It sat in the kitty litter for 2 days, and the moisture meter read at 12%. Now I measured that on the inside. The beginning of the moisture reading was just on the outside at 15, so it's dropped significantly. I didn't measure the inside moisture before I stuck it in the bag, so I don't know. I'm sure it was probably around the 20s or so. Very pleased with the results of the kitty litter. I feel like it did. It dried it pretty good in a short amount of time, and it just in time for me to get to the project. A friend of mine named John and we had done a test with some cherry. We turned some blanks and threw it in a big bag of kitty litter, crystal kitty litter, that he purchased off Amazon, and it dried the blanks in less than a week. So I thought that was pretty impressive, and so I decided, well, I'm just going to go ahead and pick some up and give it a try. And even if this piece wasn't completely dry as I guess it should be, I had to continue on with the project. So it was one of those, well, it's going to have to work because I have no other choice. But it did. I just, like I said, put CA glue on the cracks that were existing and the ones that formed during the drying process. But there are no new cracks in the piece, and it's about a week old while I'm talking to you now, and it's doing great. So give it a try. It was only $4.97 for a 4-pound bag at Walmart. If you have some smaller projects or something, throw it in there and give it a whirl. It definitely, I was impressed by it. Now the base for this project was in the kitty litter longer, but it was a larger chunk and there was no hollowing going on with the base. So I felt it was important to get that turned and thrown in the kitty litter, and I put it in at the same time I put in the holder for the light, and just left it in there longer because I wasn't able to get to the base for a few days. So the base probably stayed in there 4 or 5 days, and it seemed pretty dry as I was willing to wait for it to be anyway. So I just parted it off. I had already drilled a hole. I did it off camera. I drilled a hole for where I wanted the light to be positioned onto the base. So this is the base of the project. This piece that I'm turning right now has not been in kitty litter yet. It is still about 15 to 20% moisture. I'm just kind of rough turning a shape so that a way I can put it in the kitty litter with the actual light holder and let it sit. And it's, like I said, it stayed in there for 4 or 5 days. So I'm still roughing it out right now, and I'll let you know when I go to return it after it has been sitting in the litter. I also want to make sure you understand I'm not using like that rock kitty litter. This is clear crystal, like a silica style kitty litter. I'm not exactly what sure. I didn't even read it on the bag. I just read crystal kitty litter and I grabbed it. So they do sell these beads, and the silica beads that you can purchase on Amazon that is specifically for drying wood, or you can just buy the silica crystal kitty litter, which I think is less expensive. The only thing is it doesn't have indicator beads. The indicator beads change colors to let you know when they're wet and when they're dry. That's convenient and everything, but if you weigh the piece, if you weigh it before you start and after a few days, you can tell how much moisture has dropped out of the piece, which weighing is a lot better than a moisture meter. Moisture meter kind of gives you an idea right off the bat what it is, but if you're going to dry something, you can get a better idea by the weight, because your moisture meter will just read that surface moisture and not necessarily give you a accurate indication of moisture going on the inside. So this is after it sat 4 or 5 days. You can see it's kind of wobbling around there a little bit. Not too bad. Not enough to where I can't get it back into shape without having to totally redesign it. I did burn my lines in before I let it sit to dry, because I almost contemplated just going ahead and finishing it, and I was like, no, something told me just wait, put it in the litter with the other piece and wait. And so I went ahead, and I'm glad I did, because the base, like I said, with the other piece, there was no new cracks. There was cracks during the drying process in it. This is in grain that I'm turning, but the CA glue helped keep those from spreading any further, and it turned out just fine, and there's no new cracks in the piece, and it stayed just the way it did the day I pulled it off the lathe. So I was very happy about it. Again, like I said, that crystal kitty litter really helps. If there's anybody else who uses that, comment below about your success or even failures, so that way others who are interested in possibly using the kitty litter can get an idea of what to expect, not just from my experience, but maybe others as well. So this is a piece of bloodwood that I had that I'm going to use to connect the light to the base. I needed to get it down to, a decent size, not too small, because I do have to drill a hole in the center for the lights to fit through. So I just measured the largest part of those lights that I had to feed through the hole, and did just a little bit larger so they would fit just fine without snagging. I didn't use any waxes for any of these pieces. I just put denatured alcohol on it to clean it, open up the grain, and then I put sanding sealer on, so that a way the tung oil would really absorb in there, and I feel like it would give it a more lasting finish, and the wax wouldn't prevent the tung oil from soaking up. I don't use it very often because it's one of those finishes that you have to wait for it to cure. And if you do high gloss, you have to build, and it takes patience and time, which I have very little of both of those. So right now I'm just using 5-minute epoxy to glue that piece I just made to the light portion first, let that set, and then glued it to the base, and then taped that down just so that way it would just, seat in there properly. Coated it with 1 coat of tung oil. I know I'm such a loser. I can only stand waiting long enough for 1 coat. And then this is the next day where I came out, I wiped it all down, and I just pulled the light string, which was, I don't remember how many feet, but it felt forever, if forever is a foot long, to pull that all through and then tuck it all back in. I wanted it kind of be like a hot mess bird's nest in there, so that a way the light would, kind of shine evenly and randomly all at the same time, if you know what I mean. So I hot glued the lens down just so that a way when I poured the clear back over to fill the gap between the lens and the wood, it would all shine nice and clear and it would seal it up really good. So this project was inspired by multiple other projects that I've seen people making, from necklaces to rings and things like that. And of course I wanted to do it within my own scope of my own talent and my own abilities. And to tell you the truth, I didn't even think I was going to get this far with this project. I felt that long before I even got started, I was defeating myself in my brain, and that's what took me so long to get going on it, is I feared the failure. But it is what it is. You just kind of got to go for it and see how it works out and make it your own. And that's kind of what I wanted. I didn't want to copy anything particular. I just kind of wanted to take inspiration from other projects from this movie and kind of bring it into my own piece. And so I appreciate everybody else and all those awesome creative people out there that have made Avengers and Tony Stark stuff with the arc reactors, because it's inspired me to make this piece. And it's not the greatest piece in the world, but I love it. I absolutely love it. It's a gift for my son, and he's blown away by it. So that's all that matters. That's all that counts, is that he's happy with it. So if you don't know what the I Love You 3000 means, if you haven't seen the movies before, you can always go on YouTube and just type in I Love You 3000, and I'm sure multiple scenes from the movie will come up. Just to warn you, if you're sensitive like me, you'll boo-hoo through it like I do. I can barely read it sometimes without wanting to boo-hoo. So that is that. The lights do all different kinds of modes. You can change it to flickering, and towards the end of the video I will show you a short little video of some of the options the light will have. I also put in the description of the video the light kit I used, the kitty litter, the links for the stickers. If you want to purchase those, or links to the SVG files so you can purchase the files and cut those stickers out yourself. So I pray y'all have a wonderful weekend. I thank you so much for sticking through this long project with me. It was a blast to make. I'm very happy I finally got the courage to complete it, and I pray y'all have a good one. Take care and God bless.